and we started from that point. Okay, so we will continue. Today's session might be a short one, okay, but I want to tell you some important concepts. Okay, starting development environment, and we're gonna start a Chrome at it actually starts itself localhost 3000. Okay, so let us start and I will revise a quick concept here. We went through this React Hello World application. We started up to that point, okay, and we are just learning the basic components, okay, which we are using for advanced part of it. So now out of that, we actually went through this app.js, okay, we understood how to create a component. We created our own component, the first one with the help of JavaScript, okay. So what we did here is we created a component here in React. We wrote a function hello, and we also created a hello function with the help of ActionScript or ES, okay. ECMAScript this is okay. So anyway, so whatever this thing ES6 is something which we are using here, but we have not created any component with a class, right? So let's do that. So let's create a component with a ES6 class. Cool with this? So let's create that. So create a file here, and what do I make this? I just create it as hi, okay, or greet, okay, I'll create a greet, okay, greet.js. Okay, first thing you import React, that you cannot miss, okay, and you import one more thing here. So as you import React, you also need to import component. So component is important because we are creating a component out of the class, so that's a import. Now when you create with the help of ES6, ES6 very similar to Java, okay, so we are actually writing a Java class itself. So let's write that. So you define it like class, okay, I name that class as greet, okay, and then you say extends component, okay, sounds similar. Now you have this extend. Now every time you extend a component, it's like an interface, like you have to include. Now why I'm using this terminology, because this is relevant to you, so I'm just giving you analogy. This is not a great way to learn, but this is the faster way sometimes, okay, especially in UI. Okay, so now I'm actually having we need to have a method which is called as render method. So write render. Okay, this is a method. So write method. Okay, good with that. And render method should return what? So you should return. Give me one sec. Let me start the deck itself. I just arranged it in a proper way. So I just wanted. I don't want to break the flow. Okay. So I'll come back here. Yeah, here you go. Now we are on the right path. Yes, you're right. So we are in the class component and we're gonna write our first class. Okay, although I write a no welcome here, we are just using grade there, doesn't problem, no problem at all. So now what exactly you have to do? You have to write a render method, and render method has some implementation here. So what is the implementation? You have to return, okay, an HTML component, HTML things. So now you're gonna write an HTML here, so h1, and you say hello, okay, and hello, this is class component. Good with this? So that's it. This is a class component. This is what I want to write. So export that stuff. You need to do that. So export default. Okay, greet. Once you have that greet available as an option, as an export option, you can import it. You can import it where? So you have to add it in app.js. App.js here. So you have hello already. You can actually add greet also. So first thing is you have to actually get it from here. So import greet, from, and then you get components slash greet, correct? And then you use greet here and that tag here yourself, and you are done. So now you're gonna see, so it's compiling right now, and it will, if there are any errors, it will show it now, and you should be able to see that here after refresh. Let it compile first. There's some mistake. Okay, compiled successfully. You got the build. Hello, this is class component. So you have created a class component as well. So class component, how do you do that? So you create with the help of ESA scripts. These scripts are easier. Okay, so you can actually create this script. Now, what's the difference and why do we need that? So the good thing about ES6 is about life cycle callback. So you have init, destroy, have constructors and all those. Okay, because it's a complete and full-fledged class, you can have all that thing. Okay, one of the important things which we're gonna learn is state. So we have state here, okay, in grid or in classes, okay, which extends component. Now, does it like it's not available in JavaScript? It does. It's called as hooks. We're gonna learn that hooks also, but then we are primarily focusing as being having a programming background, and we do have a good programming background. Programming is easier skill for us than JavaScript. Okay, although it's basically same stuff, but it's like rendering, creating constructors, writing methods, and all those things. It's kind of a comfortable environment, correct? Awesome. So now let's proceed further. I have this particular environment created. So ESC classes extend components and maintain private state. So one of the important thing is you can actually have a private state. That means you can create a private variables. What is state? State. So object is state and behavior. You understood that, right? When we create an object, it's a state and behavior. So when we state, we are talking about properties of an object. So you can actually have private properties in a class. That's a very important thing. Okay, which we do not have generally in JavaScript. Now, although there is a way to do that, but it's much easier in class component. Good with that? So let's move ahead, and we got little. Let's talk about little on JavaScript XML, okay, or JSX, and we're going to talk about it a lot. Now, actually, what we wrote here as H1 tag is not HTML. So even though I said like this is an HTML page, you can render that or return that. This is not an HTML. This is called JSX, JavaScript XML. So if I'm not using this, if I'm literally using a JSX, or sorry, a plain simple JavaScript, okay, how do I do that? So if I'm not using JSX part of React, okay, if I'm completely relied on HTML itself, okay, sorry, JavaScript, plain and simple JavaScript itself, how do I make sure, or how do I create this particular thing? So now first thing is I have to return. So here if there are multi-line, you need to return this way. So return. So if I'm returning, let's say a div tag, and within that div tag I have this h1, right, and should be having a closing tag here, and done. So this is my proper component. There is no issue with that. Only thing is it has more lines to it. Okay, and I have a div tag to it. So is it running? Yes, it is running. There is no issue with that. I can refresh it. I can get the results. Now, exact same thing if I want to do that without JSX, how hard it is. So let's take a simple example here without JSX. What I will do is I'll just comment this return statement and write a new return which actually says, okay, by the way, comment is like this, or you can actually have a block comment with, we'll see block comments. So here I'm going to write return, okay, and in return I have to write React component. So now React dot create element, okay. So here I will be specifying that I need a div element and I want to post some data into it. Full with that? Ready with that? So do that. So you'll say React dot create element, okay, that's a method, and then which element you want to create, you want to specify that I need div. Okay, you need div element. Second, so there are three parameters to this particular thing. The first thing is which tag you want. Second thing is there any parameters or attributes you are passing? So as of now, I'm not passing any attributes to this tag. And third thing is actual data. So I'm passing data here, like what was typed here, like hello, this is class component, and just check whether it's working. Okay, so react.createElement div, and we got this, and there is no compilation issue. I'm completely okay with this, but I come back here and I see that okay, h1 is gone, so I need to add h1. So that will be another tag altogether. So let's do this. Let's add h1 here. What's wrong in that? So let's add h1 and then end that tag h1, and that should actually solve our purpose. Save that, no compilation issues. Come back here. Wow. So remember this is a text and this is not considered as HTML, okay, if it is packed as react.component. So that means the react.createElement taking a div tag and processing whatever it is passed as a text only. I'm not processing it anything which is as a HTML. So how do I make sure that I have h1? So for that you have to create another element, correct? So do what? You just create another element then. Very similar to this. And at that point what you have to do is you have to pass h1. But the problem is I will not be able to send multiple elements in return. In return you have to expect only, so you can only return a single element. I cannot return one more. That's the problem. So I have to solve that. So good thing about this is react.createElement also takes react.createElement itself as a param. So what I will do is I will remove this from here. Okay, make this in a different line. So I have the div tag, another parameter is null tag, and another parameter is, instead of this I'm saying react.createElement again. So react.createElement h1, so tag, so in div tag there is a create element h1. So div element is created, out in that h1 element is created, and you are passing hello, this is a class component. If I save this, there are no compiler issues, and I got the result back. Okay, now I have only two tags, but what about a complex HTML page? If I have really complex stuff to work on, I end up creating how many create elements, and then how does my entire HTML or code will look like? It will not look like as HTML at all. Okay, so that's why JSX. JSX gives me an opportunity to write my code in HTML format. But is JSX is HTML? No. There are things which I change. Okay, so common things like whenever there is a clashing words like class. So class is a standard keyword in, excuse me, class is the standard keyword in ES6 or ES. I cannot use class here. So I have to use something called as class name. So suppose I want to pass my CSS style sheet class name here. What I can do is I can create a dictionary kind of structure and pass class. Okay, but it says immediately, it says class name. It's not creating class. In HTML, passing the CSS class is just like class equals, but here though I have to pass class name. So class name, and then you can specify that okay, the class name is demo class name. Good with that, no issues. And even I have an ID. Let's say I pass an ID here, so you can pass ID colon and then you pass an ID. So this ID is probably div1100. Okay, that's an ID. With that, so we pass that data here as an attribute. Where are these attributes, by the way? So when this particular tag is getting created, you will be able to see the tag. So this tag will have those attributes. How do I see that? So now we'll see how to actually see attributes passed to any of the fields, okay, or consoles or logs, because we never thought to debug. How do we debug though? Okay, how do we actually see? Because when the code get complicated, you need an opportunity to see what's going on in the console. So for that, you have to start, and you can do that with me. Okay, Control Shift I. That is called inspect. Inspect will start this particular what you can say add-on in Chrome. It is by default. It's not available for Internet Explorer by default. You have to download that. But for Mozilla, you can actually use it, or for Chrome is Control Shift I, or there is another way of doing it. Just select the text, right click and go inspect. It's again Control Shift I only. So you'll be able to see that here. So this is the code it looks like, and you can see that the class is demo class. Got it? So this is what div class is demo class, and there is an ID. Where is the ID? Is it saved or not saved? Okay. So you have ID now. So div ID equals to div 100 and class is demo class name. So you'll be able to get those attributes here in HTML tag. Although this is not impacting to me as of now because there is no CSS class which is creating for demo class name. Okay. I'm adding it here, but I will be able to add it just because with the help of this one. Now I could have done that here itself, right? So when I'm writing a normal JSX script, I will do that here itself. ID equals to, that will be much simpler for me to understand like what's going on. So that's why JSX is much preferred as compared to these create element methods. Okay, very common interview questions. So common interview question comes like, is there any another way than JSX? So yes, you can. You can use React.createElements. Rather, you use that, but in very rare what are the scenarios. So I'm commenting that this is a block comment. Okay, and you know this block comment. This is coming from again Java. Okay, I'm good with this. So what are going on? It's easy, it's simple, it's direct, and I got an ID here. Cool with this? Questions up to this point? Cool. Let's proceed further. So let's read this through. So JavaScript, XML like code very similar to HTML. Okay. Tag name, child, attributes. It can have a tag name, it can have a child, you can have attributes in it. Make a code simpler and elegant. Okay. And let's understand how Java JSX brings simplicity in the code. Create one simple component called JSX, and we did that. So we added some div also, some class also, and we created this. Okay. So when you do that, you'll be able to understand the difference. You will understand the simplicity and why this is important. With this, okay. So now I want to do something. I want to say hello to a lot of people. Okay. So let's take the problem further. And next slide is props. So props is interesting. So let's come back here in here and say hello. So in hello, let's see the result. What's going on? So hello, I created my first ever component. Hello, this is class component. Okay. So now instead of this is class component, I want to print the name. Okay, I want to print the name. So with this, so how can I do that? How can I pass this particular thing? So come back here and write this greet, and let's say hello visitor. This is what I have. Hello visitor. Okay. Now here I want to print this like for three people. Is it greet? Yeah, greet. And just check the name. It's hello visitor, hello visitor, hello visitor. I don't want that. First thing should say hello Peter Parker. Okay. Then see hello Bruce Banner, and third thing is hello Thor. I want to do that. So how do I do it? How do I do it? So I can pass the name property, correct? So let's do that. So name property. You know that, right? You pass properties to a lot of stuff. So property of greet. So greet Peter Parker. Okay. You can use this for others. Greet, greet. Okay. Greet Bruce Banner and greet Star. Okay. When I'm doing that, see what happened is if I'm here, hello visitor. It's not even understanding what exactly I said. Okay, the name is not even entertained. Correct? So I cannot take this name and put it here. That's my problem. Right? So I want to take that name and print it there. You can do that with the help of what? you can take it as props. So props are properties which are accepted, okay, as a property. But how do I do that? So for that, we have to take a properties as an input. Okay. So how do I do it? So let's create that. Let me change this. Okay. Shall I create a new one or just modify this? Let's do stuff here. First, let's a simple example, then take a complex example. That's a rule. So I'll just say visitor here. Okay, and instead of saying greet, we'll change it to hello. So hello, 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 and we also use greet. No issues. So greet here. Okay. So hello Peter Parker. Hello Bruce Banner. So we'll do this here because it's easy to understand. First, now my method is taking props. Okay, I need to take a prop. To do that, first thing is you have to export your thing and then use props in here. So that means you are taking props. Now you can name it anything. Okay, you can name it anything, but it's recommended to take the properties as props only. It's very common practice to use props as props name only. Good with that? Okay, so I'm fine with this. Now I have arrow functions, which is lambda functions. If I have a multi-line code, I will be starting with the places. Simple enough. So let's do it. I'll write a multi-line code here. So start with this, and obviously I want to print this. Okay. You can have a div tag. Div is a division. If you don't know that, you have to. Okay. So now let's go ahead and print something here. So I'll just say print props. Okay. Also, I want to do one thing. I want to console expect assignment or function. Let's see when exactly is failing. We'll see that. We'll see that. Okay, so here I want to also log something in a console. So I'll just say console dot log. This is equivalent to system.out.println, and we'll say props. With this, oh, there's a problem here. Oh, I did not return anything. That's the problem. Okay, wait a second. So just this code goes in return. Okay, whatever we are actually saying, this goes in return. So return, because you are returning some values, right? And we missed that particular point. Okay. So we are returning this HTML content or JSX content, and here I'm also printing props. I'm also passing my props here. But what will happen now? So let's go ahead and see the code. It says hello visitor, hello props, hello props, hello props. That doesn't make any sense. Second thing is, let's see the console. So console, though, I can see that the name is passed. So name is Peter Parker, name is Bruce Banner, name is Tony Stark. So we printed that, and we printed from this particular line console.log. That means I'm getting that name. So I should be able to grab that name in here. So let's grab it then. So it says props dot name, right? Okay. Go ahead and see this props.name. I'm not getting it. So here, if you remember in JSP, we learned something called as value of. So here also we have to use value of attribute. So in JSP, our value of was dollar and then curly braces. Here we skip the dollar. We directly use curly braces and we read it as value of. So value of prop name. So whatever prop name you are passing, I'll be taking that as a parameter. Cool with this? So let's go ahead and see now. Hello Peter Parker, hello Bruce Banner, hello Tony Stark. Cool with that? So I'm able to see those names now and it's coming through. But can I add something more? Can I add an entire paragraph? Okay. So yes, you can do that. So let's go back to VS Code, and here in app.js, if you just want to say, no, I don't want to close it here. I just want to see hello, and within that I want to add something. Can I? So here I'm going to add a p tag and says he is Peter Parker, he is a Spider-Man, correct? I'm gonna do that for Bruce Banner. Who's Bruce Banner? He is Hulk. And the third thing is I'm gonna pass some content here, and let's see if that content make any sense, correct? So you are passing this, and who is this guy? Tony Stark. You guys know, I know everything. Iron Man. Okay, so you got Spider-Man, Hulk, and Iron Man here. So I'm passing that here. UI is all about this logic. So now let's go ahead and check what happened because there is no compilation error. So I'm checking here and see I got Peter Parker, but nothing is still coming through. Okay. Now one more thing I want to see is my console. Console and see what happened. I have name equals to Peter Parker and there is something called children. And if I open this, I got children. Okay. If I open children, I should be able to get the data. Okay. Peter, and there is an object actually. Okay. This object. And this object might have data. So basically we are creating a structure of children's. How can I access children? Okay, so prop children colon he is a Spider-Man. I have this prop children. So I should be able to access prop just like prop.name. I should be able to access prop.children. Can I do that? So just copy this guy and go ahead and paste it in here. So it's just p tag and say children. But how? You just have to do that with prop. So it's your prop.children. Okay, then it will print, it will not print that unless you have value of. So value of prop.children. No compilation error, looks the screen and he's, there is a mistake. Okay, that's fine then. These are just problems which may occur, so we have to do a lot of cool stuff. Okay, that is a printing console, that's fine. So now you got Hello Peter Parker, he's a Spider-Man, Bruce Banner, and Tony Stark. You got all three with a children content, like what actually children's are. Okay, so this is what this is getting props. So props are for what? Props are for passing the data from your UI to your components. Can I take props in other formats? Yes, you can. Okay, we're gonna see those examples in later part of the course one by one. Okay, but this is kind of a necessity when we take the data. Remember that we are learning UI for interacting with what? Your services. Good with that? So now I also want to do something. I want to actually do a state. Okay, I want to add something as a state. And we will do a first ever practical program, okay, which is actually counting the clicks. Okay, so that is the end of our today's discussion. So with most important concept we're going to start is state. First read this through. Props are properties we can pass as a to the component. Props are key value pair, just like hash maps. We can access props with the help of prop.key. Okay, inside this curly braces, and props are immutable and final. You understand these words? Immutable and final, correct? Props are immutable. You cannot destroy it. It's gonna be there. It's final. You cannot change the value of a prop. Okay. If I say prop.name to something, do you want to try that? Do this. Here itself, you just say props dot name and then you assign that value to something else. Correct? Save that. There is no compiler issue as such, and then got it. Error. Why? You cannot assign the value. Cannot assign read-only property name. Remember that the property is read-only. You cannot change that value. So props are final. You cannot change that value. With this, I'll keep that for you. Okay, you can uncomment that and check it. Done. Come back. Done. Good with this. Now this is from app to component. We always passing the data from component to app. Okay, the things are getting visible, but we did reverse way also. We are sending some data there also. Now handling something called as state or properties of a class. How do we do that? So now we are actually creating a complete class structure. So let's go ahead and create it. So first, I need to understand what is an object and how it works. So that is called a state. So manage within the component. So state is something which is managed within the component. A component is kind of a owner. So now properties are something which is passed from the app to the component. Like main.js is actually sending something to it, and then component is handling that data. But there are some scenarios which component itself is independent. So making component independent is also important for us, correct? And that is called a state. So your state is nothing but properties of class. Okay, it's kind of variable declared in the function body. Good with that? So state can be changed because states are just variables defined. Okay, and in JavaScript you have use state called function, and in ActionScript like in ES6 we have set state. So I'll give you both the examples. But now we're gonna take a problem, a simple problem that we will be doing. We are writing a text on the screen and we are changing the text on the click of button. So that's a very simple, easy problem, and we'll solve that with the help of what? State. So I'm going to create a component. I'll close this all, okay, and create a component called message. New file, message.js. Okay, and first thing first, you do what? So import, do what? Import React. Very important. Or and you import component. If you're confused, right, just import React first, import from, and you say React, and then now you just say comma and add component, you'll actually get some help. Okay, that's important. Once you do that, you create a class. So class, okay, you say message extends. You're very comfortable with this extends and all those things, correct? Extends what? Component, correct? And you created a first class. What you have to do? Render. Render is the method you should always remember. Render do what? Render returns. What render returns? It returns the div, the HTML component of it, correct? So start render, implement render, okay, and then in render you have to return. You have to return what? You have to return. Now here is multi-line code. So I started this block, multi-line code, and start with a simple div. What's going on? Yeah. So div, and you actually start a simple line. So I want to change the text. So H1 and say this text must change. With that, so I have this particular thing. Okay, this text must change. Okay, but it's not changing. And I have this component. Now this message component is in app.js. So go to app.js. Okay, I really do not need all these things. So what I can do is I can just remove this. So how can I add a comment? You start this curly braces, and within curly braces you add comments, comment block. Okay, this is how you actually comment something. So now I have a blank form. Now here I need, so first thing is if I want to use that, I have to include that here. So import, you say message from, and you say dot component slash message, right? You included that class, and then you say message here. Close that tag, and it's available for you. The compilation fails. Okay, it does not contain the default export. So what you miss? Export. As soon as you create something, you export that. Export default message. Right? These are warning like hello, and they are defined, but you are not using that. But that's okay. That's completely fine. Or you can just comment that too. Okay? And I add a comment here. Okay, and come back here, and you should, this text must change. But how this change must change? But then there should be a way to do that. So let me have a button here which is clicked, and then something will happen. Will be that. So let's do that. Okay, you can actually have it here, or you can go back to the component and you should have it here itself. So it's better to actually handle the component, all those things. So I'll be creating a button, and your button is change me please. That's a button. Okay, did you get that? Change me please. I'm clicking that button, nothing is happening. So on click of something, I should get something. So what you said, on click. Okay, before that, now I want to define a state of an object. Okay, so what is state? State is a property. I don't want to create a state. Okay, so you got no overall purpose, right? So I click on the button, I want to change that particular text. Now definitely if this is hard coded, nothing gonna happen. So I need that as a variable. That variable should be this class variable. Okay, that means something which is defined within the class. Okay, and I should be able to change it with the help of click of the button. Simple as that. That is my problem. So how do I do it? So first thing is I will write a constructor, and I define this particular thing as a variable. What with this? So let's do that. So write a constructor. Constructor is defined as a constructor. Simple as that. Okay, and first statement of a constructor is called a super. You know this thing, correct? Is there any confusion? So constructor is written as constructor. The first statement is super. What does that really mean? Super is basically you are calling a component class. Okay, so that you are creating a component out of it. That's it. Now next step is important. You are saying this dot state, okay, equals, and you define a state. This dot state, state is like properties. Okay, so you're saying a property that's called a state. This is object of this own class. Okay, got it. Now I'm saying what I can say, message or message text. Okay, so msg text colon, and then you print the value that this text must change. That's the value of it, and this is done. Okay, can I access this? Yes, you can. You can access this with the help of this dot state dot, and then you provide msg text. Okay, now go back there and see if you are able to access that particular property. Okay, no, it's not. Why? What you missed? Value of, got it? This text must change. You missed the value of, you got it. So suppose I change that thing, I change that message property, okay, on click of something, automatically the text will change, correct? How do I do that? So for that, I'm going to write on click function. So on click, something should happen. So on click equals, okay, and then you say that this is a function, this is an arrow function, okay, and here you're gonna say that I'm gonna call change me please function. It is this dot change me please. Okay. So now, did I make a mistake? On click. Yeah, I did. I made a mistake. I have to hide that inside. So this is an arrow function. This is a lambda expression, and I'm passing that information here. Full with this. Okay. And then it goes to change text and everything. So cool with that. Now, what did I do? Why does div here? There's no div here. Cool. So now it changed me please. Okay. So where is this function? This function doesn't exist. So you have to write that function. How do you write a function? You are already writing constructor, render. So you got to know that. You can write a function in similar way. So write change me please, then change me please. Now here you want to do what? You want to change that thing. So normal instinct of a Java developer is this. You just say this dot state dot message text equals a new value. But that's not working here. That will not work here. Here you have to use setter method of a state, but you never wrote a getter method, but it's okay. So you say this dot set state, okay, and it's a method, okay. Now in state, you're gonna start your setting your state. So what exactly your state is. So which property you want to change? Message text. Whatever properties you want to change, you're gonna change that here. So I'll just say this property. Now new text is here. Thank you. So change me have this dot set state. So state is getting changed. Okay, you're setting a new state, passing the variable message text, saying new text is here. Thank you. So this is a function which will get called on click. On click lambda expression or arrow function, and you call this dot change me please. Change me please is called here. You change the state and it will be available for you. Try doing that also, right? Try doing this dot state dot message that equals to this one. It will not work. Okay, unless there is a setter method, nothing gonna work. Okay, so this is it. So if I go back now, refresh, make sure everything is available. Click on this button. New text is here. Thank you. Okay, so on a click of button, basically you are changing the text of this thing. How do I do that, or why do I do that? Is this is for changing the state. Now on the click it's called as event. So there are many events when you work on the screen. It can be a scroll event, it can be new page event, it can be tab event, it can be click event. Okay, it can be focus event, unfocus event. All those things are event. What is focus? So this is like a focusing. Okay, you can see that this small border is adding there. This is focus. Okay, so click. This is click event. Okay, select event. All these things are events, and HTML page can adopt that. HTML page can grasp that, and we can write a method on it with this. Okay, so that is one of the event. We're going to talk about events in detail. Don't worry about that. Now coming back, there is an assignment for you. Create a click counter. Have a counter on screen with a button. When the button gets clicked, the counter should be increased. Can we do that? So instead of assignment, we're going to create it here itself, because I know that there are difficulties, okay, in learning JavaScripts and everything. So it's okay. We can take that particular example. I already answered that assignment here. We'll take that here. We do have time, so we'll complete that assignment here itself, and we'll close the topic of component as well as state and props today. Okay, so that tomorrow we can actually learn about an awesome thing. Okay, new things. Cool. So I'm creating that counter thing. So new file. I'm creating counter.js. Now just look at it. Okay, I'm just following the steps. Import React from React. You also need what? You also need component class counter extends what component. You created a class. You create a constructor. Correct? And the constructor you say this dot state equals add the state counter colon 0. That means counter value is 0. Correct? Now you cast render function. So render, create a function. Okay, which do return and do return what? Here new line, and here you're gonna write the code. You say div, and in div I'll just say h1. You say counter colon and value of counter. So value of dot this dot state dot counter. So current value of counter will be published here. So now you have button also. So write button. Okay, and you just say click with this. So click button have on click function. So on click Okay, you write a function which is arrow function. So arrow and just say click count. It's a function you called. Okay, so you're gonna actually write that function here, click count, and do what? Here is the tricky part. This dot set state, correct? It's a function. In the inside that you wanna write this block, and here you will write, say counter colon. What actually counter value will be? This dot counter, this dot state dot counter, sorry, state dot counter plus 1. That's the value. So with that, questions, concerns, doubt, issues, problems? I'll talk about this one. Very interesting stuff actually. We'll discuss this. One more thing I want to do is I want to do a console dot, right, and you write that count in the console. So once this state function is complete, what you do is you say console dot log and you say counter. This dot state dot counter. Cool with this? So you are logging that counter as well as you are updating that counter on the screen. Okay, I'm done with this and come back. Everything is correct, but you are not exporting this as of now. So export default counter. Correct? Go to app.js, remove this message, put it in here, and then add, you have to import first. So again, remove this, put it here, and now you have to import counter from component counter. Okay, and then you use counter here. Click count is not defined. See what, there is a mistake in my code. It's this dot click count. Okay, this is not allowed. Super, so super is not here. So first statement is super. Unless you call super, this is not allowed. Okay, so now your code is complete, ready, and it's get deployed here as a counter. And I also get a console here, which is not printing any value as of now because we haven't clicked it. So click, but what's the value here? It's 0. Click, but what's the value is 1. So you're not getting the proper value. You're getting 2 here, you're getting 1 here. What's the reason? What's the reason? So the problem is your set state is asynchronous. That means it executes that statement. Let me show you. So what is asynchronous? This is kind of a multi-thread access. Like one thread is getting assigned here and this state is getting executed, but main thread continues and completes this. Okay, simple as that. So this is called asynchronous happening. So this is happening asynchronous. That means you need a callback. Okay, that means whenever this state completes, only then you should actually do the stuff. Okay, but how can I do that? So there is a callback method, okay, which is allowed, okay, for set state. So set state, you have this callback. Now one thing is you can take this, put a comma, and then you have callback function. So callback function, you can actually specify console.log. Okay, now let's go back and see, click. No, wait a second, it's not happening properly. Got it? Callback function. So that's why because of callback function, whatever value is here is basically passed to that function. So if you want to use the current state of an object, you should use callback function. So this is a very important property of having a callback. That means you are allowed to actually work, or you are supposed to actually work on the exact state, okay, current state of an object. And that point you actually call a callback function. So you can write a function also. So it's not like this is a lambda expression, but you can actually write a function itself, okay, to process the current state of the value. Correct? So the current state value. So 3, 4, 5 and goes on. This is a click counter we have created today. It's very simple code, I know that, but then we actually understood how callback function works, how state work, how state work in the first place. We also learned about event, which is called on-click event. Cool with that? So we're going to proceed further with some advanced level of UI. If you're facing any issues on understanding this, probably you need some refreshment on JavaScript and action scripts, but then after that you will be comfortable. Okay, nothing to worry on that. Well, with this, so we're gonna stop here and we're gonna continue tomorrow. Yes, we do have a class tomorrow and a regular time. Well, with this, so thanks a lot everyone. Have a wonderful time.